I was in excruciating pain for 2 years from 1974 to 1976. My doctor said the pain was real, but there was no cause for it. He concluded that it was all in my head. I had gone to the emergency clinic, but they just gave me pain medication and sent me home. This time, in emergency, I said, "You have to send me to a surgeon. I can't stand the pain anymore." An appointment was made for the surgeon. But the pain was too great, so the surgeon agreed to do an emergency exploratory surgery. They found the bile duct blocked, an infection of the pancreas. I needed a drainage tube and was put in intensive care. The surgeon thought there was enough fight in me that I might live despite being close to death. They have me pain medication that made me hallucinate and swing through the room. On the 4th night, I asked not to be given the pain pills, even though I was in excruciating pain. I wanted to pray, and I could not do that with the pain medication in my system. The nurse argued, but agreed and left quietly. I prayed that God would heal me so I could live to raise my 3 small children. I heard a voice from an invisible presence say, "You cannot live if you only wish to raise your children. You have more to accomplish." I found myself in the past. I was back in the Netherlands, sitting in the kitchen. My father had just come from an interview with the high school principal and teacher. "With your brains and your talents, you can become whatever you want to become, even a doctor or a lawyer," the principal had said. Then the presence said, "And what have you done with your talents and brains?" "My father did not allow me to go to university," I responded. "Your father no longer lives. What excuse do you have now? What can I do now?" I asked. "Isn't it my job to be a good wife and mother?" The presence said, "You cannot live if you merely want to live to raise your children." I was brought back to a time in high school when the teacher returned back an essay graded with a 10, the highest mark possible. If I promise to write, then can I live? Then I will promise to write. Suddenly my pain left me and the high fevers were gone. A power had healed me instantly. The next morning the nurse came in and asked, "What has happened? Has a miracle happened?" The surgeon asked the same question. "I believe so," I answered. I recovered quicker than the doctor expected. I had a drainage tube in me, but was allowed to go home soon afterwards. I was put on a bland diet. I was told it would take 6 months to recover, but I was out gardening again in a few weeks. I feared that presence and thought I had to write in order to stay alive. I did not know what to write at first. I prayed, but received no answers. A year later, in August of 1977, I was told by a presence to pray for someone famous, as B was deeply troubled. This person needed to become a new kind of leader. I did not want to pray for this person, as I did not love him, and I was not a fan of his. Instantly, I went to another time in a past life where I knew and loved this man more than I loved anyone, even my children. "Can you pray for him now?" the presence asked. I replied, "Yes, because I know and love him now." God said he would be a new kind of leader with great understanding. 3 days later, I heard on the evening news that he had died. I felt hot and then cold. How could the presence have asked me to pray for him when he was going to die? I prayed for his soul every day for 2 years. I was afraid that if I did not write, I would die also. I wrote a novel about my spiritual growth. I learned new things through reading books that this man I was told to pray for was also on a spiritual growth quest before he died. I was inspired by his gospel music that I now learned he had recorded and read some books that he had read, like the life and teachings of the masters of the Far East. I wrote a novel about how he inspired me and how my experience in the hospital had inspired me to write about my spiritual learning, what I had discovered, and how I had grown from it. I wrote and rewrote this book many times last trying to get it published when I was age 82. No literary agent I sent it to was interested. I felt compelled to write this novel and often thought that if I do not do this, then my life would end. I wanted to keep my promise to God. My daughter Lynda P writes this out now from a journal that I have written. I had a stroke at age 86 and was in a wheelchair for 4 years. Then I had a stronger stroke and was in bed for 3 years. I crossed over at age 93, 1 month and 11 day on August 6, 2022. I, as her daughter, always felt this was a compelling story. She shared it to some people, but was sometimes hurt by their reaction, especially when she was asked, "Why are you so special?" So she did not often share it. My mom sometimes wondered whether it was symbolic that she had to write a new addition to her book of life,